He found it when journeying about to make an inspection of the temples. One Nekit was with him, who was diligent in making him to understand it, and he brought it to the king as a wonderful object, when he saw that it was a thing of great mystery which had never before been seen or looked upon. Papyrus Mes-Emneter, 4266 B.C. This chapter was found in the foundation on a plinth of the shrine of the divine Henu boat by the chief mason in the time of the king of the north and the south, Hesepti Triumphant. A Mexican cube, tablet number 151 of Niven's collection. This stone cube was found by William Niven at Santiago Ahuizotla in amongst scores of other stone tablets. Its surfaces are 10.5 inches across. William Niven is a mason of high degree. He called my particular attention to this stone. There is one great difference between his cube and the Egyptian. The Egyptian shows the cube physically doubled. The symbol on the top of this cube is the hieratic letter H quadrupled within itself. This means one of two things. The quadrupling either forms an adjective emphasizing, or it says physically quadrupled. This last meaning appeals to me as the correct one because at the time of these writings, when an adjective was used, although the same letter, it was a different glyph, as I have heretofore explained. Beyond this difference, the reading of the two cubes is essentially the same. The four great primary forces, the sacred four, apparently from the beginning the four great primary forces, called in the Nakal writings the sacred four, have played a cardinal part in man's religion. It would appear that most of the ancient theology was based on their workings, and many theological lines and divergences sprang from them. They are not dead, they remain with us to this day, although from the start their vestments have been changed from time to time, and theological trimmings constantly added. In ancient times it was quite popular to dedicate temples to these forces. In all of the plans of temples among Niven's Mexican stone tablets, I find that every one was dedicated to the sacred four as representative of the almighty power of the Creator, symbolic of his power. The earliest symbol of the sacred four I found in the Nakal writings of 70,000 years ago. It was a plain cross. As time wore on, there were three developments of this original cross, ending in 1. The swastika, 2. A form of the Maltese cross, and 3. The winged circle. All crosses are symbols of the sacred four. It seems not out of place at this point to give an explanation of the sacred four, and to define clearly the difference between them and the 7 great commands of creation, because I find that some of our Egyptologists have gravely erred concerning them. The sacred four were the executors of the 7 commands. Tersely put, the Creator gave 7 commands, and the sacred four carried them out. The ancient conception was, in the beginning chaos reigned throughout the universe, which was in darkness and without sound. Then the Creator, designed to create worlds, commanded his 4 great forces to establish law and order in the universe, so that creations might commence. When law and order became established, the creations were carried out by the sacred four according to his desires and commands. This paragraph is from a very old Nakal writing, and is the identical cosmogony shown in the Mexican tablets, proving clearly that the origin of the Mexican tablets is the same as the Nakal, namely the sacred inspired writings of Mu. Apparently all ancient peoples had their special names from the sacred four, according to their language. Some had scores of names for them. They were designated as the sacred four, the 4 great ones, the 4 powerful ones, the 4 strong ones, the 4 great kings, the 4 great maharajas, the 4 great builders, the 4 great architects, the 4 great geometricians, etc. A little later on I found them also called the 4 great pillars of the universe, the 4 genii, etc. Still later, the Amshaspans by the Mazdians, the Elohim and Seraphs by the Hebrews, the Rabiri and Titans in Hesiod's Theogony, and today they are the archangels of the Christians and Mohammedans. Not only did the Sacred Four get sundry names bestowed upon them by various people, but symbols in the form of crosses were designed to emphasize the names. Niven's old Mexicans ran an artistic riot in these cross designs, many of which were very beautiful. I have over 100 of these designs. The swastika, however, always retained a warm corner in their hearts. Among many, the winged circle became the favorite expression for the Sacred Four. The Egyptians produced some wonderfully artistic and beautiful designs of the winged circle. I give here a plate including 20 of Niven's Mexican stone tablets with crosses on them, also the key for their reading. Key for the reading of cross symbols. 1. The first original for the Sacred Four, a plain cross. 2. The oldest form of looped cross. 3. Circle with a dot in the center, the southern or Naga symbol of the sun as Ra, the monotheistic symbol. 4. A double circle, the northern or Uyghur symbol of the sun as Ra, the monotheistic symbol of the deity. 5. Builder. 6. Architect. 7. Geometrician. 8. The master builder. 9. Established, erected. 10. Strength. 11. Hieratic letter H, the alphabetical symbol of the Sacred Four. 12. Completed. The order has been carried out and has been completed. 13. Pillar. 14. Heaven. 15. A primary force. 16. Active. A spear, arrow, javelin, or dart. 17. A plain circle around the cross symbolizes the universe, intimating that the forces are working throughout the universe. The circle symbolizing the universe was called UI. UI translated means the end of space, so that where this circle is used, it refers to the end of space and includes the whole universe. I have translated some glyphs as builder, architect, and geometrician, etc., because these words are equivalents for the Naga names of these glyphs. What the actual names were among these Mexicans in their own language I cannot tell. They had, however, a language of their own, varying considerably from the Naga. The Naga and Mexican symbols being the same, undoubtedly the meanings were the same. Names were given them to complete their sacred mysteries, to hide from the layman the fact that they were the primary forces. Fortunately, these forces are so minutely explained in other tablets that it becomes easy to give them modern names with their origins and workings. The swastika. The swastika, popularly called the good luck symbol and one of the many symbols of the four great primary forces, was a favorite symbol among the ancients throughout the world and still clings to the hearts of present humanity. It belongs to the group of Masonic symbols as much as any which they use, and a great deal more so than many. But the poor old swastika has had its troubles. For a long time the ancients would not let it stay put. Let us see what it went through. The evolution and meaning of the swastika. Figure 1 is the original figure for symbolizing the four great primary forces. Figure 2 is a change made, but at what date I cannot say. The circle symbolizes the Creator, so the cross, being within the circle, makes it imperative to include the Creator when speaking of the four great forces only, so a change was made. Figure 3. In this figure, the ends of the cross are projected beyond the circle, then bent over at right angles, pointing west, with the symbol of the Creator in the center. This did not meet the requirements for the four great forces, could not now be spoken of without mentioning and including the Creator. Figure 4. In this figure, the symbol of the Creator is removed, being a compound glyph made up of the symbols of the four great builders, joined together in such a manner that they form a cross, called the swastika, in which form it has been retained to present time. The esoteric or hidden meaning of the swastika. The priesthood had a meaning for this cross beyond that which they communicated to the layman. A is the glyph reading builder. B, the cross split open showing the four builders. C is the glyph reading geometrician. D is the glyph reading architect. E reads the 3 steps to the throne. F shows the four builders forming a square. This not only reads the four great builders, but the four great strong ones. It is also the original symbol for the earth, which is the four-sided square. Legend: at the command of the Creator, the four great primary forces built the universe and all therein. They, the four great builders, the heavenly architects and geometricians, the four great strong ones, built the earth and formed its life. The winged circle is one of the last, if not the very last, designed for symbolizing the four great primary forces, unless we include our present-day conception, which is the archangel, represented to us as a human form, with wings and trumpet. All of the wings on the following circles are feathered. The oldest of the feathered winged circles, Nakal, the oldest example of a winged circle with feathers I found in a venerable Hindu manuscript. The manuscript was a copy of some sacred writings, so that the age is unknown. It consisted of the second figure shown in the evolution of the swastika with a pair of feathered wings. Guatemalan. Out of the 2,600 tablets found by Niven in Mexico, there is only one winged circle, and this one is totally unlike any of the others. All the others have wings feathered like a bird. The Mexican example has butterfly wings. Legends. To find the winged circle at its most prosperous era, we must come down to the time of the Assyrians, Babylonians, and Egyptians, from 3000 BC down to 1000 BC. Egyptian and curved wings. A winged circle painted on the end wall of the funeral chamber of Queen Hatshepsut. She it was who, when Princess of Egypt pulled Moses out of the bulrushes, the curved form implies exceptional protection. Egyptian from the funeral chamber of Thutmose I. Greek. Another one of unknown date was sent to me as coming from Greece. Chapter 9. Symbols, vignettes, tableau, and diagrams. The cosmogonic diagram of the land of Mu was the first book written by man. I have traced this diagram back to more than 35,000 years ago. Just how long it had been in use before that, no one can say or even estimate. All the ancient nations copied the motherland's diagram: the Mayas of Yucatan, the Naga Mayas of India, the Babylonians, the Assyrians, the Egyptians, and the Pueblo Indians of southwestern North America. Only one retained its simple character with its original meanings, the Yucatan Mayas. The rest, except the Pueblos, added figures and introduced dogmas. They gave some of the original figures different meanings, so that the simple and beautiful symbol of the motherland became sadly distorted. This was brought about by the unscrupulous Egyptian priesthood. They first invented the devil, then they had to find an abode for him, so they invented hell. 5,000 years ago, the devil and hell were unknown. The priesthood in India, seeing the effect on the people of these inventions, were quick to follow Set with Shiva. In Mu, the novice was taught to learn this book thoroughly, to repeat it as his belief in God and the hereafter, just as children are taught their Bibles today. In deciphering this cosmic diagram, it will be seen that there is a central circle enclosed within two interlaced equilateral triangles. They form one single figure having but one meaning. These two triangles are enclosed within an outer circle, which leaves 12 divisions between the two circles. Again, this outer circle is enclosed within 12 scallops. Falling from the main figure and downward is a ribbon that has 8 divisions. The central circle is a picture of the sun, Ra, who is the collective symbol of the deity, and as the deity is in heaven, the deity in heaven being symbolized by this circle. The 12 divisions formed by the two interlaced triangles between the two circles symbolize the 12 gates to heaven. Each gate symbolizes a virtue, so that the soul must possess the 12 virtues in order to enter the gates of heaven. The outer circle symbolizes the intermediate world, the world beyond, the Amenti of the Egyptians. The 12 scallops surrounding the intermediate world symbolize 12 temptations. The soul must prove that it has outcome the 12 earthly temptations before it can enter the 12 gates of the world beyond. The ribbon falling downward symbolizes that the soul must ascend in order to reach heaven. The ancient meaning of the word ascend, as used here, did not signify rising to an altitude. It meant to rise to a higher level towards perfection. The ribbon has 8 divisions. These signify the 8 roads that man must traverse before his soul may enter the world beyond. I have given a description of what the 8 roads to heaven are in the previous chapter. What the 12 temptations and the 12 virtues were, I have never been able to discover collectively. This ancient religious belief of the people of Mu, freely given in modern language, would read, I believe there are 8 roads which I must travel in order to reach heaven. After having traveled the 8 roads, mentioning them, I have at the 12 gates leading to the world beyond. Here I must prove that I have overcome the 12 earthly temptations, mentioning them. I shall then pass through into the world beyond and reach the gates of heaven. There I must show that I learned and practiced the 12 virtues on earth, mentioning them. Then I am taken through the gates of heaven to the throne of glory, where sits the heavenly King. Have we today among all our sects and religions any that is purer and more simple than this of the lost people of the motherland of man? Figures with many arms. During the years that followed the translation of the tablets, we found the solution of many characters which we could not read in the tablets themselves. When deciphering old symbolical figures which writers and archaeologists call grotesque gods and grotesque goddesses, also bas-reliefs, we find the undeciphered symbols mixed in such a way in these carvings that their meanings became perfectly apparent. Chandler and others have written, some grotesque Hindu goddess. The following is a specimen of these grotesque gods with the decipherings and translations of it, by which it will be seen that the figure is a tableau depicting the advent of man in the land of Mu. In India especially, one is constantly finding carvings and paintings of the figure of a man having more than one pair of arms. These figures are found on temple walls in illustrations in old Hindu manuscripts and are extensively used at the present time in Hindu native jewelry. These figures are not idols, they are sacred symbols of the great Creator and creation. They are of a very intricate design and character, the sort that one meets with occasionally when studying the first writings of man. They symbolize the infinite, the Creator, as having 7 great or principal forces, attributes, powers, desires, commands, or intellects. I have found each of these words used in various ancient writings, such as the serpent with 7 heads, which are intellects or powers, the serpent covered with feathers, whose 7 commands brought the world into existence and created man to govern it. The many-armed figures to which I refer undoubtedly originated in the motherland, although I first found them among the ancient Brahmins. It is a well-known fact in India that the Brahmins obtained their cosmogony, science, and arts of civilization from the Nagas. The Mayas in India, first called Nagas and afterwards Danavas, came to India from the motherland many thousands of years before the Aryans became known in India. The Brahmins and the Nagas also used the 7-headed serpent to symbolize the Creator. The figure of a man instead of the figure of the serpent appears to have been used, especially for depicting special creations. I have selected a carving of one of these figures which appears in the temple caves of Ajanta near Bombay to decipher and translate. It is especially interesting that it symbolizes the raising of the motherland above the waters, making it fruitful and productive, with man about to appear upon it. The central figure is in the form of a man, having 7 points, the numeral of creation. In this instance, a higher type of symbol is used, man instead of the serpent. It is repeatedly said that man was a special creation and endowed with powers to govern the earth. This tallies in many respects with the tableau I am about to decipher. The central figure wears the ancient sacred crown, a crown of pearls, which was assigned to the deity, showing him to be a king. He is placed in the midst of creation, therefore he is the king of creation. In the upper left hand he carries a fruit, and in the right hand the royal lotus, the symbolic flower of the motherland, thus denoting that the motherland is habitable. The figure is shown standing in water. Two distinct symbols tell us this. First, the horizontal, irregular lines across his legs and the lower part of his body. Second, the single-headed serpent held in the lower right hand. Below the hand holding the serpent's head, the body of the serpent becomes a pod from which seeds are seen rolling down. These symbolized Earth's germs or the cosmic eggs of the ancients. These seeds or eggs have yet to break into life. Life still lies dormant in them. In time, the vital force brings these seeds into life. The first of nature's life is thus depicted as coming forth in the waters. That is why the ancients call the sea the mother of life, and the ancient conception has been proved to be correct by the tales of the early Paleozoic rocks. Thus far it has been shown how nature's life appears and is created. It also shows that a habitable land exists above the waters. What is this land? At the lower left-hand corner is seen a deer in the act of leaping to the land. The deer, as we have shown, was the ancient symbol for first man. Therefore this tableau is describing the motherland, with man about to appear upon it. The tableau is careful in differentiating between nature's creations and the special creation of man, for nature's creations are shown as seeds to be developed and brought into life, while man is shown as appearing fully developed without having to go through any evolutionary changes. It shows that man was not considered to be of nature's making. This beautiful symbol does not look much like an idol when one understands it. It is a symbol confirming our biblical teachings, only this symbol originated tens of thousands of years before Egypt was peopled. This deciphering, by the way, is not complete on account of the mutilated condition of the lower left hand. The mutilation makes it impossible to tell what it was supposed to depict. The seven-headed serpent. This is one of the most interesting of all the ancient symbols. Its origin was in the motherland, and it symbolizes the creator and creation, and is far-reaching in its esoteric meanings. In various writings it will be found under different names, but in each instance the seven heads are referred to. I have been unable to discover its original name in the motherland, but in Hindu works I find it called both Kaisha and Narayana. In the Yucatan Maya it is called Aek Chapat, and today in Cambodia the name for it is Naga. This last appellation, however, is a modern christening, for it gives to the serpent the name of the people. The seven-headed serpent permeates all ancient writings because it symbolizes the creator and creation. Whenever and wherever we see it, we know it says, "I am the symbol of the deity, the creator. Looking at me compels you to think of him. I am the vehicle which carries your thoughts to God." At Angkor Thom in Cambodia, which is a part of ancient Burma, there are the remains of a magnificent temple that may be classed among the architectural wonders of the world. The seven-headed serpent appears in many places among these ruins, but the principal one is the approach to the temple. On either side of this approach are carved seven-headed serpents, their heads upraised from 8 to 10 feet. Their tails end at the temple walls. These two seven-headed serpents have been an enigma to the many archaeologists who have examined them, and all have placed themselves on record as saying that the builders of this temple were serpent worshippers, all except one. A lady who does not claim to be an archaeologist, Helen Churchill Candy, in her fascinating book of travel, Angkor the Magnificent, felt the heartbeat of truth about these magnificent conceptions. She writes, "It is Naga. It is like nothing else. The form is the result of centuries of legend and belief, the tangible evidence of past religion and story. It is not the fantastic creation of artist or architect, but the symbol of a demigod. This attributes his history are matters to dig out of inscriptions." Madame Candy is absolutely right, and all the others are wrong. These serpents are symbols, but she did not carry her symbol high enough. Instead of symbolizing a demigod, they are symbols of the great creator of all worlds. In front of their necks and also at the back are delicately carved symbols of the motherland, which are indistinctly shown in the picture kindly supplied me by the American Weekly. I have, however, separate sketches of these symbols which I made many years ago before the French got possession of Angkor. Then it was a hard, dangerous journey to reach Angkor from the coast, and I had some quite thrilling experiences, but that is the usual thing with all explorers. It is what is bound to happen. Besides the American Weekly's picture, I have drawings of the two of these carvings, with the deciphering and translations. Carving on the great seven-headed serpent. At Angkor Thom, central figure, lotus flower. First circle, picture of sun surrounded by rays. Rays divided into three sections, symbolical numeral of the land of Mu. At Angkor Wat, outer circle, the sun. Three inner circles, Mu's numeral. Also colonies and colonial empires. Central figure, the royal lotus, symbolical flower of the land of Mu, the motherland. How did the seven-headed serpent get the name of Naga in Cambodia? I can see only one possible way. The design came to Burma from the motherland tens of thousands of years ago, brought there by the Nagas. The Nagas were wiped out by a cataclysm. A new people occupied their land when it became habitable again. They gave the name to the serpent, calling it after the people who first brought it. And while we are at Angkor, let us consider another carving. There are conventional beasts there, called by archaeologists lions. That they are symbolical is shown by the shape of their mouths, an elongated square. One of the symbols given to Mu, these beasts are carved in a rising position, with their faces looking towards the east, the direction of the burial ground of Mu. From end to end in Angkor one meets the constant cry from the stones, Mu, Mu, the motherland. The illustration shows Ganesha. He has been called a lot of bad names by those who did not know who he was. The Hindus, however, knew who this god was and adorned his likeness with flowers, for Ganesha was the symbol of the god who cared for the fields and crops, and whose ancient name was the Lord of the lands and crops. This symbol came from the land of Mu. I do not know what his name was there, but should judge it was either Ra-Ma, Lord of the lands, or Ramana, Lord of the field and crops. The Yucatan Paiute dynasty of kings adopted him as their symbol, claiming they were the lords and owners of the land. In Yucatan, on the buildings erected during the Paiute dynasty, elephants' heads are found carved in prominent parts of the structures. In ancient times, it was always usual to carve the symbol of the reigning kings on all palaces and governmental buildings. A Naga Hindu knife. I have in my possession a knife which I believe to be the oldest knife in the world, and which is said to have been worn at one time by an ancient Naga king. As elsewhere stated, the Nagas were Mayas, who came to India from the motherland by way of Burma. They settled in the Deccan and eventually, during this settlement, into a colonial empire known as the Naga Empire. Their capital city was on the spot where the city of Nagpur now stands. It is not known when the Naga Empire ended. Legends point to about 5,000 years ago. There are innumerable Hindu records, legends, and traditions. Valmiki does say, however, that it was the first Hindu colonial empire of the motherland. A careful examination shows that the present blade of this knife is not the blade originally fitted to the handle. The blade now attached is not of steel at all, but of hard iron. It is riveted to the handle by a hardened copper rivet to make the blade fit the sheath. An overlying ring is put on the blade close to the handle. Everything points to the probability that the original blade was either bronze or tempered copper, and that it was thick enough at the handle to fit the sheath without the ring. The handle of the knife and the scabbard are of silver, richly carved with symbols, hieroglyphics, and Maya tracings. Apart from the interest that may be taken in the age of the knife, there remains a greater interest in the hieroglyphics and symbols which are carved upon the handle and scabbard. One symbol opens up an immense field for research work. The symbols which appear on the handle of the blade, front and back, are conventional tableaux, telling us who the people were that had this knife and whence they came. Figure 1. I will first take the symbol on the front of the handle. This is a tableau both symbolical and conventional. That it refers to the motherland is plainly told by the many times the number 3 is repeated, 3 being the symbolic number of the motherland. The face depicted is a conventional face, in which 2 elongated squares form the mouth and the nose. This symbol reads Mu, the motherland. I can prove this statement because it is substantiated in the tableau. First, in the crown and plumes which adorn the head. The headdress is composed of 3 times repeated. Second, with an ancient water jar with a bud of the royal lotus on either side, thus denoting that the land stood in the midst of water and that it was Mu, the land of the royal lotus. On each side of this triple figure is a conventional plume which makes the main 3. Each of these plumes is trifurcated so as to produce 3 points. The hieratic letter K is on each side of the conventional nose and is used to denote the 4 cardinal points, north, south, east, and west. These are conventional eyes looking east and west in the direction of the 2 main lines of colonization, as is shown in the next tableau. The cheeks are arched to symbolize the horizon. On both horizons are 3 suns appearing as semispheres without rays. The sun appearing on the horizon without rays symbolized a colony, with rays a colonial empire. The lower part of the figure is put there to balance the whole and give it an artistic effect. At each side of the tableau is engraved a fully open royal lotus, thus emphasizing the fact that Mu, the motherland, is indicated. From the foregoing, it seems evident that the knife was of the date of the Naga colonial days. Figure 2. On the back of the handle is a tableau showing Mu standing in water, with 2 fish jumping along on top of the water, one traveling east, the other west. This symbol shows that India was separated from the motherland by water, and that the Nagas crossed the ocean to get to India. Their mode of travel is amusingly and very effectively told by the fish being out of water and neither flying nor swimming, but hopping along the surface. Berosus, the ancient Chaldean priest and historian, spoke of the Akkad Mayas as being half fish and half man. The rest of the handle is carved in artistic Maya patterns. Figure 3. The scabbard commences with 5 bands of pronounced Maya traceries. Below these bands is a tableau, a compound hieroglyphic, which no doubt will be astounding to all students of archaeology. It is most amazing to me to find it in India. The central figure in this tableau is a scarab rising through rays of glory. Beneath is the symbol of Earth, or Mother Earth, the hieratic letter M, which is shown to be productive by the conventional leaves drooping from each end of the symbol. Beneath the surface of the earth are 2 young scarabs still unborn to light. On each side of the risen scarab is the symbol of the first man, K, the deer, but both in the act of adoration. This shows first man in adoration of the scarab beetle. What does a scarab beetle symbolize? This is the first time I have come across the scarab in India, in either writings or carvings. The scarab has hitherto been looked upon as being a purely Egyptian symbol. It was selected by the Egyptians as the symbol of the creator, who was called Khepera. On the headdress of Khepera, the scarab always surmounts it. Anana, the king's scribe and companion of Seti II, in one of his beautifully illustrated papyri, gives the following reason why the Egyptians selected the scarab to symbolize the creative god. The scarab rolls up little balls of mud with its feet, and in these balls deposits its eggs, there to hatch out. The Egyptians think this is a perfect example of the Creator rolling the world around and causing it to produce life. This italicized sentence would be startling to the modern scientist if he understood about the origin and workings of the forces, because here it is shown that the Egyptians 3,000 or 3,500 years ago understood the origin and workings of the great forces, which I shall hereafter explain from the Hindu translations. Anana carries us back 3,500 years only, but the carvings on this knife's scabbard will carry us back to a time before the Egyptians came to Egypt. The symbol on the front of the handle tells us that this handle and scabbard were made when the Nagas were only a colony in India. Now I shall try to fix an approximate date of the Naga colony in India before it became a colonial empire. One prominent figure in the Naga or Maya Empire in India was Prince Maya. The time of Prince Maya is doubtful. Although I have come across many records about him, not a single one even estimates the date when he lived. But according to traditions, and these traditions are as plentiful as leaves on a tree, Prince Maya lived 15,000 to 20,000 years ago. In Ramayana we find this reference to him. In olden times there was a prince of the Nagas whose name was Maya. Prince Maya was the author of the Surya Siddhanta, the Horus treatise on astronomy in India. Its age has been variously estimated at from 10,000 to 22,000 years. At the time of Prince Maya, the Nagas were an empire. When the handle and sheath of this knife were made, the Nagas were a colony antedating the empire. That they were only a colony is clearly shown by the suns without rays on the horizon. This proves the extreme antiquity of the handle and sheath. Ancient Maya tablet. This tablet is of fine hard sandstone. It is sculptured so as to raise the glyphs about 1/16 of an inch. The ground within the circle on which the glyphs are carved is colored a light yellow. The balance of the stone is highly glazed in blue. The glyphs are dark red and as highly glazed as glass. This combination of colors is often found in old Maya relics. The tablet stands about 4 inches in height. The bottom is flared so as to make a standing base on it. It was evidently an ornament to stand in some conspicuous place in the house of its owner. To me, there is a mystery connected with this tablet, as it is written not in the Maya hieratic, but in the temple writings of the motherland with the Naga pattern of glyphs. This particular form of writing was known only to the high priesthood and a few other prominent priests, so that the value of the tablet could only be appreciated by this caste, or by the heir apparent to the throne who was initiated into the sacred mysteries. I shall now dissect and decipher it and see what historical tale it has to tell. Key 1. The symbol of the Creator, the great ruler, the King of Kings, and was applied to Mu as the suzerain of the whole world. The Codex Cortesianus uses this application by calling Mu the great ruler. 2. This is the hieratic letter U in the motherland's alphabet, and the symbol of an abyss, a hole, a great depth. 3. This is a compound symbol being composed of the letter U with the symbol of rolling over or in over, used where the submergence of land is shown. 4. This is the symbol for a rolling movement, like the swell of the ocean. It is the ancient symbol for water. 5. This is a compound symbol composed of the ancient symbol for the fires of the underneath and the symbol of a road beneath the ground. 6. This is a word, Kuiland. 7. This glyph consists of 2 words, Kuiland dead. 8. This glyph consists of a sentence, Kuiland dead and submerged. 9. This glyph is the symbol of a pillar and an earthquake. 10. The great ruler is falling into an abyss of fire. I shall now connect up these sentences in the form of a legend. The legend. Kuiland, the great ruler of the earth, exists no longer. She was shaken up and down by earthquakes in various places, and the land rolled like ocean waves. Finally, the pillars which were supporting her gave way, and she sank into a fiery abyss. As the great ruler went down, the flames of the underneath rose and enveloped her. Then the waters rolled in over her, and submerged was Kuiland, the great ruler. In writing the legend, I have followed strictly the writings on the tablet and am simply putting ancient language into modern, so that the layman can as thoroughly understand it as the scientist. A bronze statuette of Mu as the land where man is receiving his soul from the Creator, thus making him the special creation. The statuette is a figure of Mu, Ma, or Mother, and is shown as a woman in sleep. Her eyes being closed, she has not yet received life. The soul is depicted as a man-headed bird resting on her left shoulder and about to enter the body. This symbolization is very interesting, as we find in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, chapters 17, 29, 85, 91, etc., the soul of a man shown as a man-headed hawk. The Egyptian is from 2 to 5,000 years later date. The age of this bronze would somewhat depend on where it was made. It was either in the motherland itself or in the Uyghur colonial empire. As an object of art, in its beauty and perfection of workmanship, it compares favorably with the finest and most delicate compositions of today. I know its history perfectly, but do not feel warranted in stating more about it than to say where it came from and how it reached America. After lying many years dust-covered in a garret, it now reposes in a safe deposit vault. During a period of the last century, there was considerable disturbance in China, with much looting of palaces and temples. The reader can imagine where the bronze came from. With other antiques of great value, it was brought on board an American warship lying in the harbor and sold to an officer of that ship. The antiquities are in the families of his descendants, who only recently became aware of their extreme value. The great monolith at Tiahuanaco, Peru. This immense stone has been one of the great wonders and enigmas to all archaeologists who have ever looked upon it or its picture. To the archaeologist, it is one of the wonders of the world. Perched up on the shores of Lake Titicaca, 13,500 feet above the level of the Pacific Ocean, it rests as a part of a ruin of a temple. Much has been written about this stone, and the consensus of opinion among the various writers is, if it could only be deciphered and read, what a wonderful tale it might possibly tell about the ancient past. This stone does tell a wonderful tale, for it takes its readers back 16,000 years, when Mu, the motherland, still had her proud sway throughout the earth, before she sank into that fiery abyss to be mourned by mankind for many thousands of years. It tells about the time when the first settlements were being made in Egypt on the Nile Delta under Thoth, the dawn of Egyptian history. At the time the temple was built with its magnificently carved stones, the Andes Mountains did not exist. They had not yet been thrown up through the plains of western South America. It was the raising of these mountains that destroyed the country, most of the people and this temple, in doing which the great monolith was fractured into two pieces. Many writers, I find, assign this stone to the work of the Incas. The Incas did not come to Peru for about 15,000 years after this temple was built. When the Incas, Quiches, arrived in Peru, the Andes Mountains had been in existence many thousands of years. It is a wonderful old stone, for although a hieratic alphabet had been used for a long time, not a letter appears on it. This carving follows along the lines of the first forms of writings ever used, a combination of symbols forming a picture, the picture forming a writing. It is most unusual to find a carving of this date without hieratic writings forming a part of it, yet without these writings the picture is as easy to read as a present-day printed book. All that is needed is a knowledge of the meaning of the symbols. The excellence of this stone shows great mechanical skill and artistry. Now, with the aid of the symbols of the motherland and those specially used in her colonial empires, I shall decipher it and read it to you. On looking at the picture of the carving, the most prominent object which strikes the eye is a conventional head of a human being, and the most striking point of this head is the number of times the number 3 is woven into it. 3, as previously stated, was the numeral assigned to Mu. I shall now dissect the head. It consists of 3 superimposed layers forming an escutcheon, the supermost of which is sculptured so as to represent the human face. Above are 3 feathers forming a plume, and beneath a triple throne, which the figure surmounts. On each cheek there are 3 dots. The breastplate, if it can be so called, contains 3 oblong squares, which is one of the symbols for Mu, the geometrical and alphabetical symbol. The scepter at its end is adorned with 3 macaws' heads. The shape of the mouth is also conventional, an oblong square. Here 9 times it says Mu. The head is surrounded by rays divided into groups of 4. This makes a complete circle of rays and is part of the symbol meaning Mu, the Empire of the Sun. The termination of each ray is Ahau, King of Kings, thus saying, the Emperor of the Empire of the Sun was the king over all of the earthly kings. The macaw's heads at the end of the scepter are a colonial symbol, the totem of Queen Mu of Mayax, and being attached to the scepter designate that Mayax was a vassal state or colonial empire. On the rays of the upper angles are leopards' heads, also appearing on each side of the escutcheon. The leopard was the totem of Prince Ko, the brother-husband of Queen Mu. At the lower angles are serpents' heads, the symbol of the Khan dynasty. Thus the central figure tells us that Queen Mu, with her husband Ko of the Khan family, are reigning in Mayax, and that Mayax was one of Mu's colonial empires. On the lower band are sculptured 17 small heads. Over each head and on either side are the symbols for land. The definite meaning of this I cannot state. It may mean that Mu has 17 colonies. Again, this may not be the actual meaning. Above this band are 3 bands of winged figures. Those in the middle row have macaw heads, indicating their allegiance to Queen Mu. The figures in the other 2 rows have human heads, but wear on their crowns Queen Mu's totem, showing that they recognize her as their sovereign. All these figures are ornamented with 12 serpents, symbolizing the 12 Maya dynasties who ruled over Mayax. The whole picture combined shows that the inhabitants of this land, where this temple was built, were vassals to or a sub-colony of Mayax at the time Queen Mu and her husband Ko were reigning in Mayax. Queen Mu visited the Maya colony Sais on the Nile Delta during the 1st century of its existence, and there met Thoth, its founder, according to the Troano manuscript. The Nile colony was started 16,000 years ago, therefore this great monolith of Tiahuanaco was carved just 16,000 years ago. Carved stone at Anajarpura, Ceylon. On account of the shape of this stone, this is a half-sphere. It has been called by the archaeologists who have visited Anajarpura the Anajarpura moonstone. There are several of them, and they are placed at the foot of the steps leading into the temple. That this is a symbolical stone telling who the Sinhalese were and whence and how they came to Ceylon has been overlooked by archaeologists, yet the writings are quite plain and distinct. The center of the stone is carved as a conventional but elaborate lotus in full bloom. Thus, of course, is the symbol of the motherland, the land of Mu. It was adopted as such, so Oriental traditions say, because it was the first flower to adorn the earth's surface. There is every reason for believing that these traditions told the truth and that the lotus was the first flower to appear on earth. Carved on the stone is a series of half-circles, one of the symbols of a colony of the motherland. On account of the bad condition of the outside band beyond the animals, I am unable to say whether it was an ordinary colony or a colonial empire. Beyond the lotus is an ornamental band. This has no symbolical significance unless it symbolizes water. It is also too indistinct to warrant any definite conclusions. The next band consists of a procession of ducks, indicating the manner in which the colonists came to Ceylon. Like ducks, they came on the surface of the water, that is, they came in their boats. Outside of the procession of ducks is a band which, without doubt, is ornamental only, carved there as an artistic dividing line between the procession of ducks and a procession of animals. This procession of animals is divided into sets of 3, the symbolic numeral of the motherland. Freely read, the symbols on this stone say, "These people who came to Ceylon came from a colony of Mu in their boats, the road being across the ocean, and their forefathers came to that colony from the motherland." Anajarpura was not an old city, about 2,200 years only, but before it was built, Ceylon had been occupied by a warlike race for at least 10,000 years, as recorded by Valmiki, the Hindu sage and historian. Chapter 10. North America's Place Among the Ancient Civilizations. 2 of the most interesting questions of the day to both scientist and layman are these. Where did man first appear upon the earth? At what date did he appear? How far back? The first of these questions I can answer and give all reasonable proofs, which consist of written documents, inscriptions on historic ruins, traditions, and geological phenomena. The second question cannot now be answered, and probably never will be, because the records and proofs which were once written now lie in the bed of one of our deepest oceans. There is a possibility, however, that in unearthing the ruins of ancient Hindu Rishi city temples, there may be found complete copies of the 7 sacred inspired writings of Mu. The 7th writing, or chapter, tells the tale and gives the history of a man from his advent upon earth. We have a biblical statement that says man first appeared on earth in the Garden of Eden, but where the Garden of Eden was, no two authorities agree. I maintain that the biblical Garden of Eden was the Egyptian lands of the West, the Mayas' land of Kui, and the Hindus' motherland. The hierarchical name for all of these was the land of Mu. Now I shall follow ancient man around the world, and by the written records he has left behind in every country, show beyond all peradventure the geographical position of Mu. I shall make the start from the United States of North America, because North America and Eastern Asia were the 2 countries where man made his first settlements away from the motherland. In their excitement over the discovery of a few old human bones, such as the Neanderthal, Piltdown, and Heidelberg man, scientists in both Europe and America have completely ignored the remains of ancient man in North America. That the Europeans' remains were those of idiots and is obviously from the abnormal shapes of their skulls. Doubtless they were outcasts from civilized communities. From Valmiki, Druidical works, the Popol Vuh, and other ancient writings, we learn that such characters were driven into the forests, there to live and die like the beasts. It would appear from many ancient writings that the usual method of disposing of bodies was by cremation. Consequently, there remained no trace of those whose bones had been consumed by fire. The mere bones of man do not show the degree of civilization which he has attained, or the manner in which he lived, but his works do. The remains of ancient man's bones found in North America are few, but his works are many. All of the scientists who became excited over the discovery of ancient bones in Europe agree that they are of the Pleistocene time, or subsequent to the geological glacial period. North Americans were highly civilized, experts in the arts and sciences, tens of thousands of years before the people of Europe existed. A scientific boom was given to Europe by way of change through the assertion that Egypt was the mother of civilization, whereas there are numerous ancient documents telling us that the soil of Egypt was first trod by colonists from America and India, and that these colonists brought the learning and civilization of the motherland with them. Many of these documents were written by the ancient Egyptians themselves. As Schliemann has shown, the great civilization of Egypt declined with the loss of support furnished by the motherland. The evolution theory has now a firm hold on our scientists, an idea which is impossible and untenable in the face of the sacred and inspired writings of Mu. These writings tell us what life is, how it originated, and the forces which govern it. Although written more than 50,000 years ago, the writings inform us as to the nature of the force which our scientists call the electron, its origin, how it works, what it does, and its final disposition. There are the remains of highly civilized men in North America which date far back into the Tertiary area and antedate the geological glacial period tens of thousands of years. The sacred mysteries of Egypt tell us what the so-called glacial period was, what caused it, and give a scientific description of everything concerning it. Many of the North American remains of man date back to a time before our great western mountain ranges raised their imposing heads above the level of the plains. In our western states, there are traceable 4 civilizations of human beings who occupied the land before the cliff dwellers and the present Indians. It is quite possible that the actual cliff dwellers and the Indians may be races that have descended from remnants that were saved during the raising of the mountains. The four civilizations were shown by their different forms of writing and the remains of their houses. These writings are on boulders and cliffs and give to us an imperishable history of the race that inscribed them. True, it is a fragmentary history, but it is sufficient to tell us whence they came, how they came, and of their religion and accomplishments. The keys to these writings come from the motherland, and they consist of a hieratic alphabet and a system of symbols or picture writing. The pictures form an alphabet of words instead of letters, and they are easy to read with the aid of the keys and a knowledge of the language in which they are written. Following are a few of the most prominent of the ancient civilizations in North America. Oregon. In Oregon, at a place called Fossil Lake, the remains of a very ancient civilization have been unearthed. Fossil Lake is the dried-out bed of what was once an ancient sheet of water. From the remains of the prehistoric animals found there, it has been proved that the lake existed in the Mesozoic age. Fossil Lake stands in the midst of the great Oregon Desert, once a fertile plain, but made waterless by the raising of the mountains, which diverted the surface water. Around the dried-up bed of the lake, the fossils of ancient animals have been discovered. In the lower strata, the bones of dinosaurs and other Mesozoic animals have been found. In the upper, the bones of mastodons and other mammal life of the Pleistocene time. Among the bones of the mastodons were arrow and spear heads made of volcanic glass. Nevada, some of the most valuable data relating to ancient man in North America have been uncovered through the work of archaeologists in this state. Hundreds, yes, thousands of records have been found on the rocks and cliffs of our western states, including symbols, hieratic letters, and vignettes. I have selected a few from Nevada, as much as I can give in this curtailed work. Symbol A. This is one of the symbols of Mu, the empire of the sun, a sun in mid-heaven surrounded with rays. B. This is the symbol for the rising sun, and was also used by all ancient peoples. C. This is the symbol of the sun at its meridian, commonly used by all ancient peoples. D. This is the sun shown as gone down beyond the horizon, set. Usually it is depicted as a plain circle without rays. In this case it is a black disk, which says it is referring to something that has forever passed away from the sun's rays. E. This symbolizes Mu forever in darkness. Mu's name is given by her numeral 3, placed on the top of the black disk. F. This is a vignette saying that Mu lies across the ocean in the direction of the setting sun. The serpent is Kan, symbolic of the ocean Kanab, the great waters. The semicircle above the serpent is a picture of the western horizon. Here again Mu's name is given by her symbolic numeral 3. She is shown by 3 feathers on the horizon. G1. This is a hieroglyphic reading Ul-Umil, the empire of. This is the central figure on the royal escutcheon of Mu. H1. This is a bud of a lotus, the royal and sacred flower of the motherland. G2. A single-headed, unadorned serpent, the symbol of the waters among all ancient peoples. H2. Another symbol used for water in place of the serpent. I. The ancients sometimes used a plain cross instead of the usual symbol, the 4-sided square. Both show 4 cardinal points. K. This is the first letter in the hieratic alphabet of the motherland, pronounced A. It is also the numeral 1, pronounced Hun. Its meaning was extended to cover King Ahau, the King of Kings. L. This is the letter N in the hieratic alphabet. M. This is the symbol for an abyss, a valley, or hole. N. This is the letter X in the hieratic alphabet. O. This is the letter U in the hieratic alphabet, reversed. P. Pages might be written about this symbol of the serpent and the tree. It came into existence, however, after the submersion of Mu. Q. This symbol has both plain and esoteric meanings. It symbolizes creation, also the numeral 9. R. This is a Uyghur Maya religious symbol. S. This is the Uyghur hieratic letter H. T. Is this a feather or shrub? I don't know. U. This is the ancient symbol for 100. V. This is a symbol for mountains, not very old. W. This is an interesting symbol, as it is a map of the western coastline of North, Central, and South America. X. This picture has no symbolical significance. Such hands are found painted on cave walls throughout the world. Y. This cross reads and refers to the active and passive elements in nature. It also has an esoteric meaning. Z. I doubt if this symbol means anything beyond artistic effect. AA. This is the picture of a skin of an animal. BB. Similar heads are found in Egypt and elsewhere. The horns are adorned, showing that the animal is intended for some function or ceremony. It is not a very ancient symbol. CC. A three-pointed figure symbolizing multitudes. It is generally found with the points pointing downwards. DD, a guidepost telling the traveler the direction and length of his journey. These cliff writings prove that the writers came from the motherland and that they were intimately connected with the Mayas of Mexico and Central America, as their language is a branch of the Maya.